Okay, ladies, let me start with my waiting music here. Can everybody hear that? It's a very classy show. We have our own sound effects. It's really special. We are almost ready. Jordan, I'm taking us live, okay?
All right, I'm ready.
Ladies, dance with me.
Welcome to Read My Lips Radio, a lively hour of unscripted conversations with savvy creatives. Producer and host, aka Radio Red, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's aka Radio Red.
Thank you to the voice of Ryan Treasure, who has been introducing me on this show for years. I'm Radio Red. Happy to be here. It's Monday, 5:02 p.m. Eastern. Where else would I be? It's been so many years. But the breaking news is last week I rebranded the show. I have a new banner behind me. I'm going to move over a little bit. Those of you watching, it's now, instead of just Read My Lips, Cool Conversations with Creatives, kind of flipped it around. The Creativity Show. Algorithms take notice. Read My Lips with aka Radio Red. See what I did there? And now we have a tagline. We never had a tagline before. Cool conversations, bold ideas, real creativity, not the fake kind, the real kind. So I'm happy to be here, and I have three wonderful guests. Looking forward to getting to know them. But guests, I didn't rehearse you on this, but we have a little job to do here. It is September 15th, and let's see where we are in the calendar. It is, let's see if I got my calendar here. We have, I don't know how many days we have left. Oh, yes, it's the 258th day of year 2025 Gregorian calendar. We have 107 days left. It's almost time to think about, I know, Kathy, almost time to think about preparing for New Year's Eve. It's the 38th Monday. Nobody cares about that except me, Niki, I promise you. And we have to do the following. Ladies, put up your hand in the shape of the letter L, please. Some of you know what I'm going to do. And on the count of three, you're going to join me at exactly this speed and say, hello, LLL. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hello, L, L, L. Not bad. Jordan, put them in for a tied for a second place for pretty good in sync. I'm very, very impressed. LLL is my longtime friend, lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener. Niki, that's a lot of L's, but I couldn't get her to move from Whitestone, New York, and I'm in Loudon, Tennessee. And I said, hey, Laura, it's nice down here. Come. She said, no, I'm staying in Whitestone. So it's LLL from W. What can I tell you? Lovely, lanky Laura Legs listens almost every Monday if she can, and she will at around 6:01 or 2 p.m. Niki and Kim, I haven't introduced you yet. You're all first names for me. Niki, Kim, and Kathy. Laura will email me and tell me what you each said on the show, a little tiny book report. She'll take it from the promo I sent her this morning, and then she'll put a little bit about your opening quote and something you said, and it's very, very special. She's been doing this for years, so shout out to LLL. I hope you are feeling well today. Anybody here a Virgo? Anybody here a Virgo? You are? Kim, when's your birthday?
Tomorrow.
Oh,
you know I wanted to celebrate it with you.
Oh, how wonderful. That's right. That's right. You told me. Happy, happy, happy. That's wonderful. August 23rd to September 22nd. Kathy, when's your birthday?
June.
Oh, we missed that one. Niki, when's yours?
March.
Well, I'm in October, so and I'm going to be at the next publicity summit the night of my birthday, and I'm working all that day. So I'm going to have about 2 hours off to celebrate. I'll just read a quick poem for you for Kim. The sun shines in Virgo from August's late days to September's equinox, golden rays. The maiden of Virgo's wisdom, with harvest in her hand, symbol of purity guiding the land. Okay, that's a little dedication to you. It's not a happy birthday song exactly. But I want to tell all you ladies before I do the formal introduction, today is Prince Harry's birthday. He's 41. You know who he is. He happens to be fifth in line to the, to the crown and all of that good stuff. Happy birthday. And he's married to Meghan, who has a very pretty TV show, radio show she does. I've watched her show. She bakes, she harvests the honey from the bees and the hives. She's really good. Tommy Lee Jones, the actor, is 79 today. You may have seen him in The Fugitive. He was Agent K in Men in Black, and he was in Captain America. Today is the birthday, ladies. I don't know if any of you would like this, but Dame Agatha Mary Clarissa Christie was born today. in 1800 something or other. And she is called the Queen of Crime, the author of 66 detective novels, 14 short story collections, and she wrote about fictional detectives, Hercule Poirot and Miss Mademoiselle Marple and Marco Polo. Anybody ever played Marco Polo in the swimming pool? Anybody ever Okay. Well, Marco Polo was born today in 1254, Kathy, and he was a Venetian merchant, explorer, and writer who traveled through Asia along the Silk Road from 1271 to 1295, and he journaled his experiences and told people what was there. I also have to tell you that today in 1965, something very important happened. Did anybody ever drive a Mustang, a T-Bird, or a Lincoln? Any of you? Any of you? Jordan, I know my engineer is listening. Well, on this day in 1965, Ford offered factory-installed 8-track players, tape players, in the Mustang, in the T-Bird, and the Lincoln. And guess what? The 8-tracks like to chew up the tape, so people had 8-track roadkill, and they were throwing their tapes out the car window. It confused the heck with the rodents on the car. And today, in 2003, Madonna's first children's book, The English Roses, was published in 42 languages. Ladies, this is a lesson for how you publish your books. 42 languages in over 100 countries. It was the largest simultaneously worldwide release of a book in history. Yay, Madonna. Today is Make a Hat Day, and today is International Dot Day. If you don't know what to draw, just draw a dot. Okay, now I'm going to welcome you officially, and here we go. When I call your name, just wave. Welcome to the Creativity Show. Read my lips, where sparks ignite, bringing you cool conversations with creatives who are shining bright. Radio Red on her Scarlett Mic, we're live streaming, inviting 3 voices today who may inspire you to start dreaming. Kim S. Nugent, Edd, wave hello, and Niki Holmes is with us, and Kathy Chan, also wise, as their winding paths of creativity start to arise. No blah blah or babble, just conversations in play. So tune in, watch close. We're flowing creativity your way. Kim, you're first, and this is my gift to you. Dr. Kim Nugent, a Texan at heart, oldest of 6 with drive from the start. From pies at 14 to Foley's at 16, her mentor Barbara shaped what leadership could mean. Kim rose through hotels with Hilton's acclaim, earning degrees that gave learning its rightful name. From teaching to dean to the president's chair, Kim's passion for growth was always right there. Kim's mission expanded in bold new ways, unlocking potential where hope seldom plays. Her book, am I in the right place? Yes, I'm sorry. Her book, Prison to Possibilities, lights the way as Kim mentors people's second chances, transforming each day. Kim, I hope you like that.
Love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm sorry I paused for a second. I want to make sure I was in the right place. I'm scrolling up in this great big 15-page document here. Niki, you are next, my dear. Niki Holmes grew where book love was strong. Stories aloud were her family's song. Her mother and aunt once danced on the stage, then painted their visions from age to age. Young Niki drew freely with art all around. In theater school, mentors of spirit she found. She danced with flamenco and modern's embrace till the convent walls called her with cloistered grace. For 19 years, faith shaped the art Niki would weave. From stained glass to saints, she helped people believe. Then back to the classroom through history's gate, Niki pens vivid fiction where past and hearts meet their fate. Niki?
That was very beautiful.
I'm very glad. And Kathy Chan, here we go. From childhood, Kathy found joy in song, painting, and stories where hearts belong. Her uncle's tall tales with rhythm and flair taught her that magic lives everywhere. Art museums became Kathy's sacred space where color and history quietly embrace. 30 years in HR shaped her strong voice, where art and expression remained her choice. When Lewy body dementia claimed Mom, Kathy's kin, she turned grief to purpose, a mission from within. Through her book, Someone to Watch Me Sleep, Kathy raises awareness, both heartfelt and deep. Kathy?
Aw.
Oh, okay. And now let me finish this part. So gather round where the cool vibes sway as we dive deep into creativity today. Me, aka Radio Red's energy, lights the way. We hope to inspire you to live large, to love life, and to play. So how we do? Good, ladies?
Great. Excellent.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I think I'm the only host who does rhyming bios in the intro. I don't know. I do it on my technology show. I do it on most of my shows, and I just have such a good time doing it. It's interesting taking your life stories. I ask, and for those of you who are watching, I don't ask my guests for CVs or standard bios. I ask them for an origin story. Where'd you come from? What made you? What formed you? What shaped you? What did you follow? What means something to you? That's what I'm looking for. And that's how I was able to get all that information to create these bios, these rhyming intros, I call them. So I'm glad you enjoyed them. Now, how in the world could I take 12 lines of rhyming prose and describe your full life? That would be impossible, even for me and my sidekick. Her name is Sylvie, who helps me with this. So let's go around the table, just take 2 or 3 minutes, and let's fill in some blanks here. Kim Nugent, I'd love to have you tell us a little more about yourself. I'm going to put you on speaker view, live stream. People are
Okay.
going to see you, and I'd like to hear a little bit more from you. So why don't you give us a little more introduction? Kim, go ahead.
Well, I think that, one thing I found when I was in kindergarten, believe it or not, is I loved reading. I read every book at school, and the teachers called my mom and said, you need to take her to a library. And so I thought I had found freedom when I got my library card and got to go to through all those stacks. And that was kind of the beginning of finding out something I could live outside of myself. I'm sure people can relate to that, your imagination can go wild and you can create something even more magical. I would say the second thing is I was just thinking about, I hadn't thought about this in years, but when I was a teenager, my mother allowed me to redecorate my bedroom. And as a 13-year-old, like this was huge because I was in a big family, like who gets to do that? And so I'm sure the audience may or may not be able to relate to this, but I was so enamored with what I did. But I use hot pink and lime green as my colors.
I
They are
have to
not
give you,
in vogue
there you go. I
anymore.
had to give you a sound effect. I have one more sound effect for you. Hold on. Okay, there we got the gasp. Okay. Kim, I have to interrupt you for a second because you're talking my language. I was given okay by my mom at around 14 or 15 to decorate my bedroom, and my color was red. And we searched everywhere for a red carpet, red bedspread, red curtains, art on the wall in between the pictures of the teenage stars from all the magazines I bought. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you brought back something I haven't thought about in years. Kim, tell us a little more, please. You're still going.
So, one of the things I was thinking about when we talk about creativity, truthfully, I feel like I'm really a left brain person. But in reflection, I realize that everything I do, there's creativity in it. So every meeting that I plan has a theme to it. I mean, down to the pencils, pens, whatever it is, the candy, all of it, like every little detail. And people want to come to my meeting. So be careful what you set up for people's expectations. But I love that. If I'm excited about it, then people will be excited about it. And then that kind of led me into writing. That's kind of the short story.
That's lovely. Yes, if you're excited about it, people will be. I think if you're happy about things, look at how I opened the show. Look at how I greeted the three of you. You can tell I'm happy to be here. I'm delighted to have you on my show in my space right now. And I think that helped all of you. Well, I get some guests who are some newbies and some people who are just nervous. And I think my role is to make them relax and say, hey, we're just in a friendly space and we're just having a conversation. That's it. So thank you, Kim. It's a delight to have you here. Niki Holmes, you're up next. Would you please fill in some blanks for us? Tell us a little more and welcome.
Well, I was an only child, and but I grew up next door to my cousin, and our mothers were both dancers and then artists. They painted together, and so my cousin and I pretty much were left alone in unstructured time. This was before the organized schedule for kids, to play as we wished, and we always used our imagination. We played made-up games where things like we'd lie on the grass and close our eyes and pretend we were going to fairyland, and it was a real hotbed of imagination in our family. Everybody wrote, everybody read, everybody danced, everybody played music. It was a very creative family. And, it never occurred to me that this wasn't a legitimate career or that, somehow I'd be better off not living in my head at some point. After all, I was expected to become an artist. I mean, I was always drawing. I always had a sketchbook. And yet, after all, I ended up going into a social science, which you might think archaeology isn't too creative, but in fact, research is always creative. That's how you get leads. You picture things in your head and then you check them out. And then it was a natural step when I retired from teaching to go into writing. And I've always felt like my mission as a writer, just as my mission in the classroom, was to make people realize that the people of the past were humans just like us. And I suppose it was kind of an intuition born of imagination that got me to that point. So I hope that through, as Kim said, through my own enthusiasm, I was able to lead people to that imaginative conclusion, in their own heads.
Thank you very much, Niki. Pleasure to meet you. And let's do a shout out to Alba C. Period. I don't know her last name.
The mysterious Alba C.
Mysterious lady. Yes, somebody's watching. It might be Alba. Alba, if you're out there on YouTube, hello. Okay, thank you very much. Kathy Chan, I met you as I did with Kim at the National Publicity Summit. I said, got to come on my show, and here you are. Kathy, I'm putting you on speaker view. Would you please fill in some blanks for us, and welcome.
Sure. Well, it was wonderful meeting you at the summit and great to be here. Boy, when I was little, my brothers and sisters would tell you, my brother and sister, that all I would do is sing all the time. And I thought that I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a backup singer for Bob Marley. I was a little white girl growing up in Vermont. My chances were pretty slim in that reality happening. But that was if you ever asked me, what do you want to be? I wanted to be a whaler. And not a whaler that's out in the fishing boats, but a Bob Marley and a whaler ska singer. Don't know how. But
wait a minute, can I give you a soundtrack here? Let's see if we can do this.
Yes, please.
Okay. That's appreciative. That's not mocking.
Right?
That's appreciative. Okay, go ahead.
So at one point, I was trying to create my own songs. Obviously, at the age of 5, I was thinking I was brilliant. And I tried to write my own song, but every song I was writing ended up into somebody else's song. And I thought, well, this is it. There's no more songs to be written. There's nothing else. And then to my surprise, the next day on the radio, I heard something else. And so I was grateful for that, but thought maybe I'm not going to be a singer, although I always loved singing. I always have. And then I've always really enjoyed painting and the art of creativity, and didn't realize that most people, though my kids told me that, they'd say, oh, Mom, stop saying that. But I would say, I see things in textures. I really do see, when I see trees, I see brush strokes. When I see a field, I think of, I just see it in strokes. And there was a great Van Gogh movie that shows him, I think William Dafoe played him, but shows his lens. And it was the first time I thought, I think that's me. And so I've been painting. I stopped painting when I had my kids, and that's because I got busy with life. I'm back to painting, which I love. And then I just recently started writing, which was only a few years ago, and I didn't feel like, gosh, I'm not sure if I'm a writer, but I do love storytelling and the art of storytelling, which you spoke a little bit in my bio with my uncle. And it used to be you'd have family, y'all had to sit around and listen to the story. There was no devices to sit on. It was, you have to hear the story. So I got my art and love of storytelling from my uncle.
Very nice. What's your uncle's name? You want to do a shout? Is he still around?
No, he actually passed away a year ago. It was Uncle Henry, and he was my favorite.
Oh, well, in absentia, in memoriam, Uncle
Absolutely.
Henry. We're thinking you're famous now. You're on the creativity show. He made it. He finally made it. Yes. Thank you very much, Kathy. You're all just so interesting and delightful, and I appreciate the story. So thank you. And now let's move to the part of the show where I've asked each of you to send me a fictional quote from a movie or a TV show or a song lyric, and you're going to relate it in your own words to the topic of your creativity. So let's start off with Kim. And Kim has sent a quote from Andy Dufresne speaking to a letter to Ellis Red Redding. And I think you all know. And Ellis was played by Morgan Freeman and Andy Dufresne by Tim Robbins. And the movie, of course, we know that it was The Shawshank Redemption. It's a 1994 American prison drama Okay, interesting. Uh-huh. Okay, Kim. Film written and directed by Frank Darabont based on Stephen King's novella called, I love this title, Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption from 1982. I'm going to read the quote, and Kim, please relate it. So the quote is, "Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies." Oh, Kim, if only. Kim, talk to us. How'd you pick this one?
Well, my work has pivoted into doing working really with people who are incarcerated in maximum security prisons. And, you would think that many people would lose hope. But, what drives me every day is to make a difference providing hope with practical tools also. But, there's just I am so enamored is a good way, I guess, a good word to be able to say, or inspired is a better word, inspired by the men and what they go through. But there's so many, they're creative. They have leadership skills. The talent is unbelievable. You cannot even imagine writing, poetry, graphic design. I mean, name it, they are. And so to me, when I see that talent, I think about what's next for them, what's possible in this world. And nobody ever gets to see that unless maybe they're related and they send something home. But I mean, it's just such a missing. So to me, it's inspiring.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting. Let me go back to our screenshot here with everybody. Was that one of your favorite movies, Kim, because of the work you do, perchance?
I have a lot of favorite movies, but yeah, I mean, it really does speak to really sort of the situation, I would say.
What are some of your other favorite movies?
Hmm. This is going way back. I don't know if anybody would remember.
Doesn't matter.
I think it was probably eighth grade or something, but I love Dr. Zhivago.
Oh my, yes. Long ago and far away. The novel was what, hundreds and hundreds of pages. And do you remember who starred in Dr. Zhivago, the movie? I don't remember.
I don't remember at all,
Omar
but
Sharif.
Really?
Omar Sharif.
Oh my goodness. And that goes way back. And what a handsome man he was. Okay. Thank you, Kim. And thank you, Niki. Let's go to Niki. It's time for your quote. You've picked a quote from a song, a beautiful song, The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, written by Paul Garfunkel in 1964. I have an interesting comment here about this, Niki. They were American folk rock duo. Everybody, I think, has heard of them. They had a studio audition of the song that led to a record deal with Columbia Records. The acoustic version, the original version, was recorded in March 1964 at Columbia's 7th Avenue Recording Studios in New York City for their debut album. Wednesday Morning, 3 a.m. was the title. And it was released, but guess what? Nobody liked it. Didn't do well. So guess what happened? Their producer went back into the studio without telling them the following year because radio stations in Boston and Florida started to pick up the song, started to gain traction. So Tom Wilson went in quietly and he overdubbed the electric instruments and he overdubbed the drums and he didn't tell Simon and Garfunkel. And he released it again as a new single in 65. And guess what? They got together quickly. They recorded a second album, which Columbia titled Sounds of Silence, because the song was a huge success. And we all know it ended up being featured under the opening and closing credits in the soundtrack 2 years later of the 1967 film The Graduate. It was a top 10 hit worldwide. It was included in all kinds of compilations, and I thought it was very, very interesting. By the way, Simon and Garfunkel originally performed in New York in the late 50s, and they called themselves Tom and Jerry. And they got together and then they separated when they went to college. They regrouped and they started performing as Kane and Gar, K-A-N-E-N-G. They had all kinds of names. And they signed up at Gerdes, G-E-R-D-E-S, Folk City, a Greenwich Village nightclub where there were Monday performances. That's where Columbia producer Tom Wilson saw them. Okay. And he was a young jazz musician and he helped guide Bob Dylan's transfer from folk to rock. He got them signed with Columbia. Interesting story. So, beautiful line Niki has chosen. The words of the prophet are written on the subway wall. Niki, talk to us. What does this mean to you?
Well, it's very mysterious in the first place, but to me, it sort of implies that it's from the people, the popular stratum, that great movements are born, and truth comes from kind of the salt of the earth and not preached from the top.
Okay, and what does this have to do with your creativity? How does this guide you, or how does this reflect? Tell me more.
I feel like it's a kind of a natural thing and not trained. Maybe this is self protection here because I didn't study writing at all. But that artisticness and ideas are just part of who we are. They're part of our nature as human beings. It's not something that I don't think you can teach genius, let's put it that way, or creativity. I think you can teach skill, but the initial inspiration, the imagination, that flows from below, from who you are. So,
Nate, thank you. Very, very interesting comments. Thank you very much. Kathy, I'm moving on. You've sent us another song lyric. This is from Eyes of the World by the Grateful Dead on their 1973 jazz-influenced album called Wake of the Flood, which became their biggest commercial success so far. Grateful Dead, American rock band formed in Palo Alto, California in 1965. Boy, are we going back in time. Eclectic style, elements of rock, blues, jazz, funky, folk, country, bluegrass, rock, and everything else, gospel, reggae, and world music with psychedelia, known for improvisations during their live performances, and their fans were called Deadheads. There we go. Let's get to the lyric you have selected. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world. Oh, what a pretty line, Kathy. How'd you pick this one? Talk to me.
I just think it brings such joy. And I think that's what creativity is about. Like, wake up to find out that you're it. You bring it. And you only bring it for you. And it comes from you. And be excited that, you are the eyes of the world. And it applies to everyone. It's not just me. It's just like, just wake up and bring it every day.
Thank you very
much. But I do want to say, Kim,
please.
I was debating to put another quote from Shawshank Redemption, and it was, you either get busy dying or get busy living.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
Get busy living or get busy dying. Yes, that was another very famous quote from Red.
Very
yes.
Famous quote. But yeah, I just it's always inspired me to, like, bring it on. Wake up.
Isn't that interesting? And I'm going to go back to Niki's quote. Thank you all for the quotes, ladies. I really appreciate them. A lot of thought went into them. I was so surprised to read that the producer basically reworked the song, Niki, to make it more popular, and it hit whatever he did, and he didn't tell them. And think about creative ownership, and think about today what would happen if somebody did that to your book, to your play. Well, it happens all the time, probably from screenplays and movie and TV, right? The actor is, the singer is, the musicians, they're all doing some interpretation. So I thought that was very, very interesting. But they're still around, Simon and Garfunkel. Oh, we've got a kitty. Who is that?
This is Apollo.
Apollo,
the god of creativity.
There you go. Is Apollo a he?
It's a he.
It's a he. I just want to make sure. You never know with names these days. Very, very interesting. What brand or what genre?
He's just a European short hair.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you very much. Welcome, Apollo. This is the creativity show with Apollo.
There he is.
All right. I think there was an anniversary of the Showtime at the Apollo. I think it had an anniversary on one of my happy birthday shows last week. Thank you, ladies. Now let's go to our creativity statements. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to pick a statement out of the 4 that you sent me, and I will read it. You don't have to go find it. This is not a pop quiz. And then I want you to expand it, unpack it, talk a little bit more about it. Okay. If it's really detailed, I'll only read a little bit. And then I would start with you, Kim, and Niki and Kathy. If you have anything to say, like it resonates with you or you agree or disagree, oh my, you're allowed to disagree. I'm sorry. Whatever it is you have, I think you each have 10 fingers as far as I know. Not my, no aspersions, but you have one finger I don't respond to. But if you want to say something, wiggle one of the nice fingers, not the middle one. Okay, I'm very fussy about that. Wiggle, and I will see you, and I will call on you. Or I might just say, do you have anything you want to say to Kim? And this way we'll turn it into a real round table. So if anything strikes you, good, bad, funny, odd, strange, or yeah, I had that thought, or I do that too. Don't be shy. I don't think you are. So, Kim, I'm going to start out with your statement number one, and then we'll go to one from Niki and one from Kathy. And I like this one. Kim says, creativity takes on many forms. In business, my creativity comes when I plan and deliver meetings, workshops, and events. Okay, now here's the good part. I mind map and start with a theme and build around it. I want my meetings to be fun, engaging, and memorable. I believe it shows people I care, which you said earlier in the show. So let's talk about the idea of mind map and a theme and building on it as part of your creativity, or perhaps the core of your creativity. Kim, talk to us. Tell us more, please.
So I took a class on creativity, and the gentleman taught us how to mind map. And it blew my mind. And you can't always remember when you learn something, but when you say mind map, I can tell you exactly where I was, exactly when it was, and everything else. And from that day forward, everything changed. So it was no longer a burden to create something new. It was fun. And I think that's the whole thing about mind mapping. I don't care what profession you're in. Once you learn how to do it, you bring your own flavor to it. You could be a student in school and taking notes. You could be planning a business meeting or a PowerPoint, or, thinking about ideas for a book or a movie. Whatever it is, it's so 100% applicable. But if you learn that craft, if you will, in less than 2 minutes, you've taken so much stress away from your life. It is unbelievable.
Tell me, how do I do a mind map? Can you give us a little lesson? We're all salivating here. Tell us. Okay, we all just signed up for the Kim Nugent class. Talk to us. What's a mind map? Come on, me too.
So I'll give you 3 quick examples.
Okay.
So the first example is if you were to go ahead and draw a picture of a fish.
Okay.
And then if you draw that picture of a fish and then you put lines around it, I'm going to give you we're not going to really do this, 2 minutes to write down everything you know associated with the word fish. Go. So then we come back and then I do a debrief and say, okay, what did you know? So that's a good way to use it for brainstorming. A second way, now the next thing is, which is the next part I like, once we've done that, second exercise is draw a circle. And in the middle of that circle, go ahead and put down your very favorite vacation place. And now I want you to draw lines all around it like the sun and put down everything that you remember about that vacation, who you went with, what you wore, the food you ate, all the things that you did. And I always say, we're not going to share that with anyone else. It's your vacation map. But then when we debrief, I don't ask them what they've written. I ask a different set of questions. And that first question is, what surprised you? And every single time they say, I can't believe I remembered every detail of my vacation. So what mind mapping does is it brings the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain together to pull out everything. And that's when real creativity happens.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. When I used to have my own stand-up comedy troupe. I'll tell you the name later. It was kind of cute. I did Borders bookstores and small clubs in New York and public libraries. And we actually got paid. I split some of the money and the gift certificates with my comedians. But when I took comedy training, Kim and everybody else, from Steve Rosenfeld's American Comedy Institute, it was 3 weeks of training, group class, where we shared ideas, but I'm going to tell you something about mind mapping in a second. And then a one-on-one with Steve. And then the 4th week, you had to perform live at a major comedy club in New York and have all your family and friends come and pay. Seriously, I was on stage at Caroline's on the 4th week with a group of newbies with a professional opening and closing for us. Scared the you-know-what out of me, but it was great. And then I started doing comedy. But what they told us, Kim, in one of the beginnings was, think about the strangest relative you've ever had and describe things that happened with them, describe your life with them, things you know about them, and then build a story around that concept. You don't have to say, oh, I can't be funny. There must be something in there that you can build a story around. And was that a kind of a mind mapping, perhaps, Kim? Do you think?
It could be. I think, really what the secret is putting pen to paper, not doing it on a computer, because the research actually says that, the quality of thinking improves when we put pen to paper.
This was live in front of a group of friends.
Oh, wow.
And they were recording us. This was absolutely live. And then, Kathy, 1 second. And then when I took improv training, we were told, I think you'll appreciate this, we were told to come up with a character and then describe the entire life of that character. Where did they go to school? What do they eat for breakfast? What kind of newspapers do they read? What is their favorite songs? What kind of shoes do they wear? What kind of toothpaste do they use? Kathy, I know. And that's how we created our characters, because we knew we were mapping, Kim, I think I'm stretching the term a little bit here. We were mapping the character, and that's how you do an improv character, because you know everything about it. It's like writing a character for a movie. Kathy, talk to me. Go ahead.
I was just curious, Kim. So to apply that, if I had how to coach or how to improve my communication, how would I mind map that? What would it look like?
So, I mean, first of all, I would highly recommend anybody just go and Google or use AI Chat GPT or Copilot. You'll get a lot of good ideas from the research. It's been around since the middle of the 50s. But what I would say is just honestly, take a big piece of paper and just draw a circle. And then from that, some ideas are going to start to happen. So for example, there are some things that you may know already. Maybe you always start with research. So you could have research in the bubble, or communication, or, what's the timeline, or who's the audience. Now all of a sudden you're starting to put some things together, and now you have a map within 2 minutes those are your next steps. The reason I like it so much, and I said it reduces stress, is that when any of us are given a task, we keep it in our head for days on end, and we don't do anything. If you just set aside 2 minutes right now, you put it away, and all of a sudden it's like it ignites the brain in some ways, and you can always come back to it because you've told your brain, I got this, and we can come back to it.
Interesting. Niki, you have any comments, any questions?
This is sort of the same principle with which a novelist might approach, kind of working out a story in their head in advance. I'm not a person who plots in advance and does an outline, but I always take notes of just thoughts that come to me. And as something will drift through my brain weeks later or days later, I always jot it down on the same piece of paper, because what you find happening is you've got a plot working itself out. If you didn't write it down, it would be lost. So
yes,
I think that's a great,
very important little tidbits of creativity. And famous people have said that. Always write something down on a piece of paper, send it to yourself in a voice message, on a voice recorder on your phone, or send it to yourself in an email, anything. There's so many ways to do that. Thank you, Kim. Great start to the roundtable. And let's go to Niki. Niki, I'm picking two of your statements. I think these are interesting. Niki says, I can't plan a book in advance. I have to launch in and let the characters take me where they want to go. And one more thing I'm going to add to this, Niki. You say, now that I'm into my verbal phase, I seem to have no interest or need to do visual art. I thought that was very, very, and by the way, ladies, the sun is coming in between the blinds, and if you see me moving, I'm trying to get out of I've got dots, dotted line running down. There must be something very creative there. Niki, tell us about this, about, first of all, not needing visual art, but you don't plan. So I've written plays, and my characters told me what to say. I didn't have to do it. I just sat here and they channeled. So how does that work for you?
I'm just not what they call a plotter. I'm a pantser, someone who writes by the seat of her pants. So the first book I wrote, I tried to do it the way the books tell you and work out an outline. And, at point 2.5, this happens. And at point 5.0, this happens. And I was going absolutely mad. I would sit and stare at the paper and think, I have no imagination. I can't come up with a thing. This is not the profession for me. But as soon as I let go of that and just started writing, whether it made sense, whether it was consecutive or not, then I found I could continue forward. And sure enough, what the characters wanted to do was the next step, just as it would be in real life. I mean, you don't plot your life, it happens. And how you respond is what makes the next thing happen. So I found that to be the only way I could operate.
Tell us a little bit about your books, or your favorite book that you've written, Niki, so we'd have a little more context, please.
Oh, my favorite book. Well, I write historical novels set in the late Bronze Age, so ancient Egypt, the world of the Hittite Empire, the Near East generally. And I guess one of the ones I like best is the one where I took an actual historical event about which we knew practically nothing. It was a royal divorce, just a few little factoids that we had. And I looked at it through the point of view of a a fictional character, the eunuch chamberlain of the queen who was divorced. And that gave me a whole flow of things to put into the spaces between the facts that we knew. And it became a human story then. And of course, he had a backstory, and the other characters did. And although most of them were real, we knew nothing about them, so they might as well have been fictional. So and that became sort of my modus operandi. I just turned the names of history into real people and tried to imagine how they would approach their lives. They became real for me, and then hopefully I was able to communicate that to the readers.
Very interesting. Comments, Kathy or Kim?
Niki, as you were saying, you're really talking about mind mapping in a different way, because I am also, even though I feel like I've used the left brain more, I don't write that way either. I can't do Roman numeral 1A, blah, 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 and all that. I just can't. To me, it's mind mapping is so freeing. And really, that's what you're talking about, the freedom to go where your mind is taking you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I can see where the idea of the little picture that you start with, or a circle even, is like a door into the world you're wanting to approach. I mean, it gets you in there, and then things start to flow.
Opens the door.
It sounds very, very real to me.
Kathy, anything?
Yeah, I actually was right there with you in that I feel like I was in the chamber getting ready, and I was thinking, who's getting all the jewels in this divorce, and where are they getting married? Like, where's she going, right? So I was right there, and I love that. I love the thought of being in somebody else's space and seeing it through their eyes. So just found that fascinating.
Well, about 10, 12 years ago, I decided I wanted to write a romantic comedy play, and I had no idea how to do it. So I Googled Playwriting 101, and I found a document that I could download that told me exactly the font to use, the spacing, the leading between the lines, what size it was going to be, what the sections were, was going to start out with painting the scene, and then a brief definition of each character. And I just started writing, and I was working full time, and I started writing at 1 o'clock in the morning, Niki, and I wrote for 3 or 4 nights, and the play was done. The characters told me who they were, what they wanted to say to each other, how they wanted to interact, where they wanted to go. It was so lovely. I had a TV show on Long Island, and I contacted some community actors I knew. And I said, would you like to do my play? And then my director went to the city. It was done in front of Penn Station in New York, and then in a cab. And he took videos of the traffic and the noises and the sounds in New York. And he brought that. And then I downloaded a picture of a van from the internet. And we made that on a green screen be the actual cab. And the actors were sitting in an empty studio in front of a green curtain, sitting on a wooden block, on a chairs basically. And the cab driver was sitting in front of them. And I bought a plastic children's steering wheel and put it up on a mount. And I had teleprompter so they didn't have to memorize all of their lines. It was so fun. I directed for the first time in my life, and I helped them develop the characters, and they brought their own interpretations. We had so much fun. I had other people wanting to do it, so I did a second version. There's only one woman. There was one woman. It was a couple dating from a website, from a dating site, and the cab driver became part of their lives, and he met them again twice, 10 years apart, and recognized them. And it was a very interesting story, but I had 2 other actors who wanted to be the cab driver and the guy. So I brought them back and I said, let's do it again. So the woman put on a blonde wig this time, and she recreated her role in another way with 2 different actors. And we did it again in the TV studio. And it was some experience. But Niki, they told me what they wanted to say. I did not have to work at putting words in their mouth. So Kim, this was, I think, my mind, I call it channeling. I just simply channeled the characters and they talk to me. But I look at the clock and I want to get in some statements here from Kathy. And Kathy, let's go to, I have two statements here. You know where I'm going with one of them. I want to read both of them and let's see where this takes us. So Kathy says, number 1, painting, if done right, is selfish. I have never heard that before, Kathy Chan. I want you to explain that. And the second one, you say, for me, doing or creating art is the closest I get to meditation. I just am, and it just is. Kathy, these are quotable. I just am, and did this come from somewhere? Because it was lovely. Talk to me.
Well, as probably from my quote, I'm the eyes of the world. I see things in color. I see a lot. And so for me, it's this calming, it's the settling. And art is selfish because, I think of there's life and busy and there's kids and I should be doing this and I should be doing that. But when I just want to do art, I'm just, there's nobody else. There's nothing else for me, which is strange. I just paint. And I don't know how much time has passed, or I don't really pay attention to much else. And it doesn't have to be a particular masterpiece. It could just be a study. And actually, I'm into tones right now. I'm going back to roots. But yeah, I think that it's the only time that meditating to me is always chasing out the other thoughts, right? Meditation to me is I try to sit there to be quiet and chase out the other thoughts. When I'm painting, there are no other thoughts.
Yeah.
Interesting. I paint too, and I started on a whim because I bought a painting kit at Michael's when I was living in Durham, North Carolina, and I stuck it in the closet for about 6 months. And one day I found it, and I said, "What the hell did I buy this for?" Oh, it was on sale. Isn't that cute? And I put it away. And then 2 months later, I took it out and I looked at it and said, "Oh, it's got watercolors, and it's got some acrylics, and it's got some pencils and crayons, and it's got different kinds of paper, and it's got a book." And I started reading the book, and the next thing you know, I was painting 5 paintings every weekend because my kitchen, I had a big counter in the kitchen with the sink behind me so I could paint and all and put down. I bought the pee pads, the doggy covered the counter with those, and I just painted like I just kept buying paints. I go to Michael's and fill up the whole car in the trunk with canvases. When I moved here to Tennessee, I think there were about 10 crates with my paintings. I have over 300 paintings, Kathy, and I just keep painting and painting. But I have that sense. When I go, I took the sunroom in this house and I turned it into an art studio. It's got a corner with windows on both sides. And I took my mother's dining room table, she had passed, and I put a glass top on it. And I have all kinds of paints and all kinds of collage materials and paintings everywhere. And but when I go in there, Kathy, hello, Apollo, when I go in there, everything stops.
Right?
I don't know if I don't have my phone with me, I don't know what time it is. It just space happens, right? It just is. Kim, do you have any experiences like this with art you want to talk about, or with your writing or with your workshops, Kim?
I would say, for sure, several of my books, I felt like I really was able to channel it. In fact, two in particular, the the one of the last ones I wrote, after I picked it up, I finished the book, I looked at it and said, where the heck did that come from? I really had no memory of writing it, and I couldn't believe how it turned out.
Yes. Very, very interesting. And what about when you write, Kathy, I think we're talking about being in the flow or being in the zone.
Yeah.
That another way of thinking about it when the space is just you, right? It's just you and the art is flowing. Talk to me a little more, Kathy.
Yeah, I think that it's how people, when you don't exercise, you feel like, oh, I should go out. I need to get out. There's a longing. I have that same sense of longing for creating an art. And I actually ache when I don't do it. And I know that sounds a little
No,
silly.
it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But I want to know about you say painting, if done right, is selfish. What does that mean?
Well, it means that you block out the world, do exactly what you did, go into your room and just be like, this is me, and I want to do it, and I get to do it. And I'm also just so grateful that I have that passion, as I don't think
Mm.
everyone has that. I think they do. I just don't know if they've identified it. And I'm just so grateful that I know what it is. I got the key, right? I got the key. And it doesn't matter if I'm famous. People always say, oh, put it on Etsy or do it. I'm like, it's not about that.
No, it's
And
not.
and by the way, it's like it's hard to be I would say an artist where you can make a lot of money. So it's not about that for me. When
No.
I wrote my book, it wasn't about oh, I'm going to be, make, the next Eat, Pray, Love. It was about this was a story that needed to be told, and it's service, which is, I think, another, service is actually selfish in some ways because it's very gratifying to be of service. And so I
Yes.
think it's the same. I think it's,
Interesting.
if painting, if done right, is selfish because the painter was just in their head, just
Interesting.
there, just present.
Niki, I think you want to say something. Am I right?
Well, I'm just remembering when I used to do art and visual art, and how complete you feel when you're into a project and you're in the flow, so to speak. And every medium I would pick up, I felt like this is the ultimate self-expression, man. At first it was pen and ink, and then it was colored paint. And then at one point, I went into stained glass, and not thin stained glass, but the big, thick slabs that are set in epoxy. And when the sun hits that thing, it's just like a revelation. You feel like you draw this watercolor on a piece of paper and it's beautiful. The design is beautiful, but when the sun hits the glass, that's real. So it's just whatever I was doing was my very favorite thing of all, and it's a great feeling. I hope people in other fields get to experience that, but I don't know. I don't know if that kind of bliss that the beauty in the world can give you if you see things as an artist. I don't know how widespread that is. People have it dulled out of them.
I think people find it in their own way. I started out as a programmer analyst back. I'm an early woman in tech. I started out in mainframe programming years ago. I won't tell you when. And I found a joy in coding a program so well that it ran either first time 2,000 lines and first time or one or two small errors, and it would run. And I related it to the old the jumping for joy, the Toyota commercial. Remember a Toyota, and they jump for joy. That eureka, that nirvana. I experienced that, Niki. And people always said, "Oh, you got to be good in math." Well, I was good in math, but you got to be good. No, it has nothing. It's logic. It's Kim, it's mind mapping the route from the question to the answer. What is a report supposed to do? What does the data say? How do you get from A to Z? You program it, you map it, and it happens. And I found great excitement in being a programmer, Niki.
Wow.
Great satisfaction. So I think some people say that the sciences, that STEM is an art form, but not everybody realizes that. Your point is,
I believe that. I know.
Very well taken. Very
my
well
experience
taken.
of science was.
I think that there's just, no matter what people do, it could be that they're just perfect at making gnocchi, or they love the art of cleaning to a perfection. I mean, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's creativity in all of it. And art is, painting's almost a little cliche. It's almost
it's obvious. It's obvious. It's what we assume is. I want to read one more statement. We've just got about 3 minutes left, but I want to get this in real fast from Niki, and then I'm going to do my closing. Niki says it takes a certain kind of courage to put yourself out there in a novel or a painting. I think being on stage helped me toughen up. So true, so true, so true. Niki, just give us a minute comment, please, and then I think we're going to start to wrap up soon. Go ahead.
You really expose yourself in any product of your creativity, and sometimes it's a very intimate thing that people can trample on and dislike loudly. And so, I mean, you have to be ready for that and be true to, who you are and what you've done.
There you go. Ladies, I belong to an online poetry group, and every Wednesday morning early, we get from the moderator a word or a phrase that's the prompt of the week. And I write 3 to 5 poems every Wednesday, and then during April and I can send you all the link. It's free. You just sign up with your email, and you pick a name or a password or whatever. On every day of the month in April and November, we get a prompt every single day. So I write about 5 poems a day for those 2 months a year. So I've got about 700 poems. Twice as many as my paintings, Kathy. I'm up to about 700. But I like acrostics. I like limericks. I break the 5th line, Niki, on my limericks. They're long sentences in italic that just go on forever with finally the AA rhyme ends that part, and they're stories. I have Timmy and Susie who are teenagers, and there's a car crash and somebody's fooling around. And I do that every week, and people seem to like it. But I want to read you all one of my poems. I read it on most of the shows, and I think you'll enjoy it. And it's something I dedicate to all my wonderful creatives, and the 3 of you are now my creatives. So here we go. This is Night Shift. Night Shift, NIGHTSHIFT, was the prompt on Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. So it's a little over a year ago. And this was an acrostic. So there's a line that starts with N and one with IGHTSHI. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but just think about it. I'll emphasize the words. Here we go. Never quite really at rest. It's the life of a creative. Going, gripping, gyrating, growling, groaning, growing, highs and lows, flowing on a mental Mobius strip. The days are the nights are the days again, shifting off and on into and out of gear, hoping for unique brilliance even once. It's a calling, command, curse, roller coaster, finding eureka, euphoria amid frustration, fears. Thus is the life of the creative. I present that to you, and I hope that brings you some kind of joy, that I have a lot of energy in that, and I put it in my notes because I really enjoy it. I want to thank the three of you. Don't go away. We'll sit around and talk a little bit, but we're just about at the top of the hour, and I want to thank Jordan Henson for getting us on the Empowerment Channel on Voice America Media YouTube. I've got us on LinkedIn and Facebook twice and my own YouTube. So let me do my closing before I run out of time. And ladies, in 2014, I ended my shows with the top 10 tips for women. Talk about keeping your notes, Kim. And the number one tip, this was 2014, remember this, 11 years ago. The number one tip was aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. Okay? That was 10 years before the movie was made. And here's my closing. Life is short. Break the rules. Forgive quickly. I'm still figuring that out, Niki. Kiss slowly. Love truly. Laugh uncontrollably. Everybody laugh with me. 1, 2, 3. Not bad, not bad. And never, ever, ever regret anything that made you smile. Final words. Work like you don't need the money. You have to be the one who cares, but work like you don't need the money. Dance like no one's watching. When I taught disco to 150 people in a high school cafeteria in Eugene, Oregon, I was dancing on top of a Formica tabletop in a cafeteria, and I told them to get me a wooden stage, but I didn't fall. But everybody watched. I never fell. Sing like nobody's listening. I didn't sing today. And love like you've never been hurt. We all have. Let your heart regroup, regrow, regenerate, and love again. Money talks. Chocolate sings, la. And last but not least, I stole this line from a host I heard years and years ago. Thank you for turning me on. Radio Red is signing off. If I can find the music, let's see if we can go out appropriately. 1 second, here we go. Come on, go. Let me see if I can get it to... Oh, that was the wrong one. Wrong one.
On Read My Lips Radio, producer and host, a.k.a. Radio Red, invites you to eavesdrop on her live, unscripted conversations with smart, savvy, creative people as she discovers what makes them tick, where they find their inspiration, when creativity first became their passion, and how their creative process can inspire the rest of us to think out of the box. Enjoy a.k.a. Radio Red's always lively, cool conversations with creatives. Yes. Oh, how those lips can talk.
Thank you very much. Radio Red signing off. Ladies, wave goodbye.